Hi, I'm Gary White for Channel 6, Central Kentucky Television, and I'm here with Amy Morgeson, who is the director for the Marion County Public Library, which is now reopened after an extensive renovation.
Yes.
Right?
Finally reopened. We had a few delays, but we're back up and running and going full speed ahead. So, yeah.
And we're actually sitting in Happy Hollow. We're going to tell you a little bit about that, what that means here while we're doing this interview. But tell us about the renovations. So the Marion County Public Library has reopened about 2 weeks now as we're doing this interview in its former location, but it's a massive renovation.
Completely. The building was essentially gutted, and I got so many questions. I mean, even down to my husband asking, why didn't you guys just tear it down to the ground and start over? But we did a feasibility study, and we went with, what they said was going to be the cheapest way to build as much as we needed, as much as we wanted, because we wanted to get as many square feet as we could out of the space, and then also stay where we are because we're in a really good location for a lot of walkers, a lot of schools. We've got, right behind us, we've got 21st Century Learning Center, we've got adult ed, we've got the adult daycare. So we're in a good location, and this was the place to stay, and this was the way to do it, and the best way we could use the grant money. So.
Right. So let's talk a little about this project and how it all started. So you wanted to renovate, you needed to renovate, but you were able to get some grant monies to make that possible, right?
Yes.
Okay, how'd that come about?
First of all, we have had past board members that have saved for about 24 years, as much as they could save without taking away from any of the services. That was the big deal. It was like they saved towards it, but they knew that ultimately we could not do what we wanted to do without a grant. And the reason being is that when you get these grants from the state library or the state itself, you have to have a little bit of money that you can put into the project yourself. So over the course of 24 years, they saved about $450,000. And that may not seem a lot to some, but it is to us because you don't have a huge budget, but you don't want, like I said, you don't want to take away from what you want to give back to the community.
Right.
But the grants became available. Wrote a grant in 2016. I'm losing years. In 2017, we found out we received the grant. For the first time in 20 some odd years, there was actually an appeal to the process. So it took a little bit longer to find out how much money we would get. Found out that over the course of the next 20 years, we'll receive $2.9 million. So each year we get a little bit of money from the state, and then we put in a portion of about $60,000 that the library takes from its own budget, in addition to the money that comes from the state. And so over the course of that 20 years, we'll pay back the money that we bonded for this project.
Right. So what was the figure for the renovations?
The whole renovation, I think it comes to right at about $3 million. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, what we put in with it comes to about that, yeah.
With your savings and the grant monies.
With the grant monies too, yeah. Okay.
So the building went from, I think you were saying it was about 11,000 square feet to now it's about 17?
17,000 square feet.
But also you opened it up a whole lot.
Yes, yes. If you remember the old library, when you came in the back door, initially that side of the building had been put on as an addition in 1993, and when they built that addition on, everyone thought that brick wall was completely load bearing, but it wasn't. There's actually some metal structure parts because it's a real modern feel, but you'll still see the metal structures within the building. But once you took out that brick wall, you opened the whole building up and you allowed it to kind of just completely do a turnaround. So everything's been flipped on one end or the other. It's just a much, much more open space and easier to manage, easier to make sure everybody can see everything from the desk. You come in from either side of the building. They moved the front of the building entrance just a smidgen down the side of the building. So when you come in, you can now see the desk from both spaces, and you're not lost and wandering around and thinking, where's the desk at? Who do I ask for help? So this way, yeah, much easier.
So that was opened up to allow a lot more room in the main area. But also, as I said, we're sitting in something called Happy Hollow. And this is one of the meeting rooms that's on the side. Each of the meeting rooms is actually named for a Marion County has a Marion County connection,
Yes,
put it that
yes.
way, right?
Yes, there was an online survey that was done, and kind of a vote. We went through and we tried to find as many names of local significant places that we could, and put that list online, and we allow people to vote and say, you know, what they would like each room to be named. And we've got Happy Hollow, we have Rosenwald School, we have Stewart's Creek,
Fig and Branch is behind us here.
yes, Pope's Creek, just things with local significance. And then in each of the rooms you'll find a little placard that explains a little bit about the history of that place.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it's giving a little connection there. And as there are, in the main area, there's 4 of these rooms that are available for, not for rent, you don't have to pay anything, right? But you can reserve for different, for whatever
And
reason.
especially the small meeting rooms. The wall behind us is actually movable. And if you need a room that will hold more, when each room is divided, it'll hold probably about maybe 6, 7 comfortably. But you can open that wall up and hold, 15, 16 in a larger setting than if you need it. If you come in and nobody is scheduled, there's a digital kind of a little laptop thing on the outside of each room. If you see on there that nothing's scheduled in that room, you can just select that you want to use the room for the next up to 120 minutes. You select what you need and go in and sit down and study. We're having a hard time getting people to realize there is a light in here. All of the light switches are a little bit different, so when you come in, feel free to hit some stuff. It's not going to hurt anything. But you can come in and use it to study. You can come in to use. We've had a little bit of everything in the old meeting rooms, and then we know it's going to be the same with the new ones. We have people do, litigations. We have people that meet with clients. You name it, you can use the space for that. As long as you're not selling something, you're not having. You can't have a Tupperware party per se,
right.
And it's the same with the large meeting rooms. The difference with the large meeting rooms is that you can't actually book those by yourself. You have to go to the front desk, or you have to call in advance to use those, and they are for nonprofit use only. You could actually do a fundraiser thing for something as long as it's nonprofit. Yeah.
Okay. So, and speaking of that, there was a meeting room in the old. In the former library facility, but now it's a lot bigger,
Yes,
right?
Much. Before, when we could hold about 65 legally, we can now hold about 200 in there. And those rooms are also, it's divisible by a set of 2 different walls, so we can make 3 larger rooms as well. So we can have multiple programs going on. If you had a conference type setting that you needed to set up, you'd be able to make those rooms into that. The tables are all powered, so you'd be able to use them for laptops. We have a large projection screen and a digital projector, but we've also got 3 smart TVs that can you can project your laptop, your slideshow, or whatever you need onto those as well. And then we also have a hospitality room, which I had explained to Gary. We don't have an actual kitchen. It is the Veronica Hill hospitality room. A nod to her, because we did lose our small meeting room before, and that had been dedicated to Miss Hill, and we wanted to show our appreciation to her still. So that is that room has warming drawers. It's large capacity ice machine, refrigerator, microwave, everything that you would need to use to maybe cater an event. You couldn't necessarily cook there, though, because like I had said before, it's a little more expensive if you want to make it into a functional kitchen, because you have to pay for a range hood that costs a large quantity of money, and we didn't want to dedicate that amount of funds to it at the time. So.
Yes. Now, speaking of Veronica Hill, I knew her through the Historical Society, doing a lot with history, but now your genealogy room, if you're looking for local history, has a lot more to offer as well in this new facility.
It's wonderful. It's about 3 times the size of what it was. We have ample shelving, a lot of room to grow. The print collection is wonderful, but she's also got 4 public computers in that room, and you can have access to Ancestry.com. There's the online files of all the newspapers. We just found out that we're going to be getting some more digital files of all the local newspapers as well. You can come in and ask Miss Shama. She is our genealogist, and she can help you find out anything you'd like to know about primarily it's our local history, but in some cases, as with the Ancestry, you can find out more outside of the county. But we like to think we've got the corner market on Marion County, right. But we do have some more, touching surrounding areas.
Absolutely. And you also have a timeline in there, you were saying, for Marion County.
That was also a project by JAMA, and we utilized some of the equipment in our makerspace room, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it is a vinyl cut timeline that runs the gamut of Marion County itself. It even talks about the period where all the files got burned by John Hunt Morgan. That seems to be the biggest.
That's during Civil War.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting to see too. You can kind of go in and learn a little bit about the town, and that's really what we wanted to do with the facility. We wanted it to be this new modern space, but with everything we wanted to tie it into the past too, because you learn from your past, and that's like with the small meeting rooms. Each thing has got some kind of interesting fact about just Marion County itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, as we mentioned, there's a wall behind us that your architects kind of did a design with, but you also have a cave outside that has a local connection and an interesting story for the kids. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that is Rue's Cave. And if you don't know this story, I had first heard it at Leadership Lebanon. There's a gentleman named Rue Spraggins that owned property on both sides of Main Street, I think around about the 40s. We actually have a placard up at the front that is a newspaper article that tells exactly what happened with Rue. But basically, Rue decided that there was a tunnel already under Main Street, and he had these two properties, and he thought it would be a great place to weather his pigs in. So
under the road.
Under the road. So he dug this out and made a cave-like tunnel, and that is where he was wanting to store his pigs. He went to city council, went before them and said, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it. And they said, well, we don't think it's possible. And he said, well, I've already done it. So Rue kind of epitomizes what we're wanting to do with the library. He had imagination, he had innovation, and inspiration, and he had those three things, and we thought it was really funny. And when we talked to our architects who did the design work for the stuff like the wall, they thought it was great. They thought it was a really interesting story. It's a way, like I said, we can tie in the history and let the kids see you come from a really neat place. Marion County is just a cool place, and there's lots of characters, not just present but also past, and it's fun to learn about that. So the kids can come and sit under the cave and read, and Miss Morgan, our children's librarian, she is doing story time under there, and then they go on to another room. They go to it's actually Neverland. She's named that. That was the only not historical room that we've got, but that's our programming room, and we wanted a little fantasy in there as well. So they go to Neverland and they do their crafts and things. But yes, they can sit in Rue's Cave and they can learn a little bit about their history and maybe get their own innovative ideas and grow up to be
Inspiration. Yes, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So Neverland from Peter Pan, is that what your fantasy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, also, as the library does a lot with kids, with children, and you have a special room for them to create in, right?
Not just the kids,
Okay.
and that's the other thing, because Rue he was an adult,
Right.
But we have the design den, which is a makerspace room, and a lot of people don't know what that is, but it's a room that is set up kind of like a workshop, and people can come in and learn how to do things like edit photos, edit computer programs. You can do sound recording, you can do video recording. We have a green screen. We also have a green screen wall. We have we've got a 3D printer. We have an edible printer that will print cake tops. We have GoPro cameras. We have a drone. We've got a lot of just really fun and unique stuff that you may not necessarily have access to in your own home, but you could come in and you can learn how to use it in that room. And then once you've learned how to use the tools, then later on down the road, once we've got those people set up on that, you'll be able to check those rooms out just like you would check out one of the meeting room spaces and use that. You can create shirts. If you look at, this is my sweater we actually did with our heat press, and we used our vinyl cutter to use that. So it's things, we're not wanting to compete with anybody in town. We know that there's already, a wonderful t-shirt provider in town. But things like you just want a shirt, just something special, like your daughter's got a birthday party coming up and you want to say, it's my first birthday. Well, you might come in and you make that shirt. We're not going to do anything in a large capacity, though, because we're not wanting to compete with local businesses.
But it gives opportunity for creativity, but also to learn for various little elements as well.
And you've wanted to go on television like you, and a kid or an adult or anybody that hasn't had the opportunity, they don't have their own camera at home, they don't have their own green screen, but you can come here and you can try it out and you can say, maybe that's not for me, or maybe it is. Maybe that's something I want to learn more about. And you can get some books, or you could go online. Or you could go on to school and use that, in your life.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of new things that are being offered here at the Marion County Public Library with their renovation that is now complete, and the library is open. And actually, I want to mention, too, that you're having an open house coming up, right?
Yes, March the 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. We will have the ribbon cutting ceremony here. And then that following Saturday on the 16th, it's going to be open, and we'll have a few demonstrations and things, and people will be around to help give tours. So either of those days you can come in, or even if you can't make those days, please feel free to ask if you don't know where something's at, because we're always happy to show people around and let them know where stuff is moved to, because we're still learning as well.
Exactly. And you'll find a lot of books, which you would expect to find in a library, but a lot of other options as well, because a lot of technology and a lot of things happening here at the Marion County Public Library, constantly evolving.
You can even check out cake pans. You can check out icing tips. You can check out bongos. You can check out ukuleles. We'll soon have fishing poles. That's part of the Library of Things. That's kind of an addition to the Makerspace room or the Design Den. It's an all kind of hands-on. We know that learning happens at different levels. It's not just reading. A lot of people learn hands-on, so this is going to let them come and try things and
right.
Inspiration and innovation and,
exactly.
and imagination.
Exactly. Yeah. Now tell us where you're located and your hours.
It is 201 East Main Street. On Mondays and Wednesdays, we're open 9 to 6. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're open 9 to 7. On Fridays, 9 to 5. Saturdays, 9 to 3. And we are closed on Sundays and most recognized holidays. Yeah.
Fantastic. So come on down and visit the Marion County Public Library. I've been talking with Amy Morgeson, who is the director of the library, the Scary White for Channel 6 Central Kentucky Television.